Welcome back, everyone, to Sip and Talk.
Hey there. Good to be back.
So glad you could join us today. Grab your favorite drink because we've got some pretty big global topics to unpack.
We really do. Today we're looking at the latest on, well, Trump's tariff policies and how that's shaking up global trade. And then we're jumping over to Taiwan for a really significant political moment happening there, this grand recall movement. We'll share some different perspectives, including some thoughts from our friend Mickey, who's actually from Taiwan. Just a heads up for anyone new tuning in.
Yeah, it's quite a bit to get through, but, we'll break it down, make it make sense, maybe even have a little fun along the way. Okay, so tariffs.
Yeah.
Let's dig in. It feels like they're always in the headlines, but things have been moving fast recently. And just as a reminder, it's 2025. Donald Trump is the current president, which really sets the stage for a lot of these policies we're seeing.
That's right. And what's really striking is this recent flurry of activity. We're seeing new agreements pop up, shifting the dynamics, like that big deal with Japan, announced July 22nd.
Right. Tell us about that one.
Well, Japan basically committed a huge amount, $550 billion in investment into the U.S. Plus, they opened up their markets more for American stuff like cars, trucks, even rice.
$550 billion. That's massive. What do they get in return?
So the U.S. lowered its tariffs on Japanese goods, dropped them from 25% down to 15% starting August 1st. And you saw this ripple effect, right? The Japanese stock market liked it, especially car companies like Toyota and Mazda. Toyota jumped almost 15%.
Wow.
Yeah, the president actually called it a signing fee. Kind of suggests a model for other countries,
So not just Japan, then. Is this happening elsewhere?
Exactly. You're seeing a pattern. Indonesia got its tariffs reduced to 19%. The Philippines down to 15%. And reports say the EU is getting close to a 15% deal, too, though we're waiting on the details there.
Okay, so it looks like a trend. Invest big, get lower tariffs, sort of like buying down the rate.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And it's shifting away from those big multilateral deals toward these one-on-one agreements.
So with all these deals happening, what about Taiwan? Have they gotten one of these tariff letters?
That's a really important question. As of mid-July, July 18th specifically, Taiwan's situation was still unclear. No formal tariff letter, which is basically the signal the U.S. wants to talk specific trade terms. So, yeah, they're not part of these deals right now, and that's causing real worry, especially for Taiwanese farmers.
Farmers? Why them specifically?
Well, they're concerned that without a deal, American farm products like rice could just flood their market and, crash the local prices.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. And South Korea?
Mentioned as potentially following Japan's lead, trying to get a similar arrangement still unfolding.
Okay, so beyond these specific country deals, there's also been talk about something bigger, right? A universal tariff.
Right. So stepping back a bit, remember the president paused most of those reciprocal tariffs back in April, set a kind of 10% baseline.
Reciprocal tariffs, just refresh us quickly.
Yeah, basically, if country A puts tariffs on country B puts tariffs back on country A, tit for tat. Those were paused, but are set to come back August 1st at different rates. But the bigger idea floating around is this general maybe 15% or even 20% universal tariff on all imports.
All imports. Wow. That would affect trillions of dollars.
Exactly. Trillions in goods, potentially generating hundreds of billions in tax revenue for the U.S. government each year. And there was even mention of a super high, like 200% tariff on foreign-made medicines.
200%. Okay, that's huge. So what's the thinking on the impact on the economy, on us?
Well, it's really complex, and people definitely disagree. The government's view, or at least what Treasury officials argue, is that it's a big revenue source. They say it's more like a one-time price adjustment, not really a driver of ongoing inflation. The idea is it could be a win-win, boosting U.S. manufacturing and blue-collar wages.
Sounds good in theory, but I'm guessing there are other takes on this.
Oh, absolutely. You look at, say, Yale University's budget lab. They paint a very different picture. Their analysis suggests if this full tariff plan happens, the effective U.S. tariff rate could go over 20%.
20% effective rate. What does that mean for households?
They estimate it could cost the average U.S. household around $2,700 a year. Big price jumps for things like clothes, maybe 35% higher, and electronics, maybe 12%.
Ouch. And the wider economy.
They also project it could slow down U.S. GDP growth and lead to job losses, maybe close to 600,000 jobs.
Yeah.
It really highlights how hard it is to quickly bring manufacturing back, and how much U.S. industries rely on imported parts, which would get more expensive.
Right. But despite all this tariff talk and potential costs, the U.S. stock market seems pretty strong.
It has been, yeah. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ hitting new highs. Company earnings look good. However, there are some warning signs flashing. Potential overheating.
Like what?
Well, investor borrowing margin debt is climbing at its fastest rate since, 1999. That can mean more speculation, more risk if things turn down. Plus, you've got way more retail investors involved since the pandemic, which adds another layer of complexity.
Okay. And where does the Federal Reserve fit into this? Are they on board with the administration's approach?
Ah, the Fed. That brings up the whole independence issue, right, which is crucial for the Fed. The president has been pretty public criticizing Fed Chair Powell, pushing for rate cuts, way down to 1%. Even visited the Fed headquarters.
But is the market expecting cuts?
Generally, no. Not immediately. Most predictions are maybe autumn, if at all, this year. Fed officials themselves seem to hint that later this year might be more likely for any changes.
And isn't there some debate about what the Fed should even be doing?
Yeah, there's criticism about mission creep. The idea that the Fed is getting involved in things beyond its main job, stable prices, maximum employment, things like looking at debt-to-income ratios or even climate change. Some argue that's overstepping their bounds.
Okay. Interesting dynamics there. Let's shift gears now. Something else fundamentally changing everything. AI. Artificial intelligence.
Yes. It feels like it's just exploded, hasn't it? Permeating everything.
From our phones to businesses?
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Absolutely. And the economic impact is just huge and accelerating. Take Google, Alphabet. They're seeing really strong demand for their AI products, boosting sales significantly. They're planning to pour, get this, $85 billion into AI-related spending.
$85 billion. So those huge investments are starting to pay off despite the cost.
Things like it. And they're in this intense talent war, trying to grab the top AI minds, all while their main search business is still doing great.
And then there's Tesla. They've had a bit of a wild ride lately, haven't they?
Definitely a tough year, as they put it. Recent results were like a 10-year low for quarterly performance.
So what's the plan there?
Well, CEO Elon Musk is really trying to pivot the company's whole identity. Less about just electric cars, more about being an AI robotaxi company.
Robotaxis. Is that realistic? Soon.
That's the debate. Some analysts are pretty skeptical about his timelines, his predictions for how profitable robotaxis will be. What's really interesting is Tesla's tech approach. They're going for this low-cost, pure vision AI. Just cameras and software. No LiDAR or radar.
Which is different from competitors like Waymo.
Totally different. Waymo uses a whole suite of sensors. So Tesla's making a big bet on their vision-only system being good enough and cheaper.
And in the middle of all this AI hardware, NVIDIA seems to be king, right? With the chips?
They are absolutely leading the pack in the AI race. It's quite dominant. There was actually an interesting side note. The former president apparently considered trying to break up NVIDIA.
Really? What happened?
He changed his mind after meeting the CEO, Jensen Huang. It also kind of hints at maybe a shift in U.S. policy about exporting key tech, especially to competitors like China. NVIDIA is right at the center of that.
Got it. And all this AI needs massive infrastructure. We keep hearing about data centers.
Right, it's like a new gold rush.
Yeah.
Building these enormous data centers, they need incredible amounts of power gigawatts and huge amounts of land.
Sounds like a boom. Are there risks?
Definitely risks. Yeah. Getting enough power to these centers is a challenge. Power grids are strained. There's the risks that demand for AI compute could slow down eventually. Plus, tech changes so fast, older centers could become obsolete quickly. And you need someone to actually buy or lease all this space long term.
So big investment firms are jumping in?
Huge firms like Blackstone are pouring billions into data centers, infrastructure, trying to capitalize on this wave.
Okay, let's pull back. The big picture. What does all this AI really mean for us, for jobs? People worry about that.
It's a huge question. AI is definitely seen as a key reason the U.S. economy has been surprisingly resilient. The promise is massive productivity gains. It's going to fundamentally change how we live, how businesses operate globally.
But the jobs question.
Right. There might be some jobs displaced in the short term. That's undeniable.
Right.
But if you look at history, the Industrial Revolution, the internet major tech shifts tend to create more new jobs in the long run than they eliminate. A lot AI is still pretty early stage, but we're already seeing real benefits. Helping write content, coding help, much better chatbots.
So the U.S. is leading the innovation now?
Yes, the U.S. is leading the innovation race. But many argue the adoption race, how effectively companies and countries actually use AI, is even more crucial for unlocking that productivity potential worldwide.
Fascinating. Okay. One more big topic shift. Let's go to Taiwan. Something really significant is happening there on July 26th, this grand recall movement.
Yes, this is a major event for Taiwan's democracy.
Oh.
We've talked about Taiwan quite a bit on Sip&Talk, but this is,
A bit we're talking.
It's one of the largest legislative recall efforts they've ever had, targeting 24 lawmakers from the main opposition party, the Kuomintang or KMT, plus the mayor of Hsinchu City. It's a massive democratic exercise with really specific rules about getting enough signatures and then needing a certain voter turnout for the recall to actually pass. Like over a quarter of eligible voters in the district have to vote yes.
Okay, so huge stakes and obviously a lot of debate. Let's start with the concerns. What are people who are against these recalls worried about?
Right, the anti-recall side has some serious points. Their main worry is about checks and balances. They argue that if you remove a whole bunch of KMT lawmakers, you weaken the legislature's ability to keep an eye on the ruling party, the DPP. They see the KMT's role as vital for oversight, for asking tough questions.
Takes sense. What else?
There's also a concern that it turns democracy into just, well, constant political fighting. The feeling becomes, oh, I don't like this politician, let's just recall them. Deepening divisions. Plus, an effort this big takes enormous resources, time, money, organizing. Some feel it's a waste if it's just driven by political anger rather than real solutions.
Any other factors?
Yeah, and this is a sensitive one. Concern about external influence. Specifically, some agencies and media outlets in Beijing have been quite vocal, and the anti-recall side worries this is interference in Taiwan's own democratic process.
Okay, so those are the main concerns from the opposition. What about the other side, the supporters? And tell us again about our friend Mickey's perspective.
Right. So Mickey, our friend from Taiwan, offers a really strong pro-recall viewpoint. He's upfront. He says, look, the ruling DPP isn't perfect. They have issues too. But he sees the KMT's actions, especially what he perceives as their leaning towards China, as a much bigger, more immediate threat to Taiwan itself.
He had that analogy, right?
Yes, it was really powerful. He said, basically, I agree the DPP has bad points, but the KMT is demolishing your house. And you have to deal with that first.
Wow, demolishing your house. That really captures the urgency they feel.
Exactly. So for people like Mickey supporting the recall, it's fundamentally about protecting Taiwan's sovereignty. They see it as pushing back against what they view as the KMT trying to grab too much power or aligning with outside interests. It's a form of direct civic action, people taking part, holding representatives accountable.
And Mickey also mentioned something about democracy itself.
Yeah, he emphasized that this intense disagreement, this passionate action, is democracy. It's not about everyone agreeing all the time. It's about everyone having the chance to make their choice heard through voting, through action like this recall.
So it seems incredibly divisive. Why such a deep split on this?
That's a great point. And while it looks really intense from the outside, this kind of disagreement, this friction, is actually, well, it's a normal part of a functioning, healthy democracy. You could call it civic coordination. Different groups pushing for what they believe is best. Both sides ultimately want what's good for Taiwan. They just disagree strongly on the priorities, the risks, the best path forward.
It's a fundamental debate happening out in the open.
Precisely. Which is what you expect and, frankly, want in a free society, even if it's messy.
So what happens after the vote on July 26th? What are the potential outcomes?
The results will be really crucial. Obviously, it determines if those 24 KMT legislators and the Hsinchu mayor stay or go. If a large number are recalled, the DPP could potentially regain a majority in the legislature. That would be a huge shift, impacting laws, policies, everything. It could also create new political fault lines.
And regardless of who wins or loses.
Yeah, regardless of the outcome, the big challenge will be what comes next. Call it the winner's mentality, or maybe the aftermath mentality. If the recalls pass, how do the supporters and the parties involved try to bridge the divisions this has created? If they fail, how do the opponents deal with the concerns raised by those who started the recall? It's really going to test Taiwan's democratic resilience, how they manage to, as the phrase goes, live and mend together after such a contentious period.
Phew. Okay, wow. From global trade wars and tariff deals to the AI revolution changing everything, and then this incredibly important democratic moment in Taiwan. We have covered a lot of ground today here on Sip&Talk.
It really drives home how interconnected everything is, doesn't it? Economic policies over here, tech shifts over there, citizen action somewhere else. It all ripples out, and how important it is to, think critically about it all.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads to our closing thought for you today. In this world where information just flies at us constantly, where these huge forces are reshaping things, how do you figure out what really matters? And maybe more importantly, how do you make your voice, your opinion heard? Just something to maybe mull over this week.
That's a great question to leave people with. And on that note, I think we've got to wrap it up for today.
Thanks so much for tuning into Sip and Talk. If you enjoyed the conversation, found it useful, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. It really helps.
And hey, definitely check out our friend Mickey's YouTube channel. It's called Mickytolife. He does fun stuff, memes, music, wine tasting, travel vlogs. Really great content. You won't regret checking it out.
And especially for our listeners in Taiwan, with the vote coming up, remember to go out and show your public opinion. Your participation matters.
See you next time on Sip and Talk.